Now, the Welsh Labour Party has released a draft report entitled, quote, Anti-Racist Wales, the Race Equality Action Plan for Wales. And this was signed off by the Welsh Labour leader, Mark Drakeford. And the so-called action plan proclaims that governments, public bodies, businesses and public bodies have no excuse for inaction. The report lists several proposals and encourages the censorship of free expression. That's what some are saying. And it encourages affirmative action as well, also known in this country, sometimes referred to as positive discrimination. And it says it wants to crack down on microaggressions in Wales.
Well, joining us to discuss this now is Andrew Tettenborn, a law professor at the University of Swansea. Welcome to the programme. First of all, can we just get your views on what kind of impact these proposals could have on Welsh voters if they're put in place?
I think it could be quite considerable as soon as Welsh voters see what's actually implied here. You have to read between the lines on this report. But one thing it will do is make life very difficult for any manager in the public sector. Because if you look at what they're going to demand, it's one, that managers avoid what are seen as microaggressions, which can go right down to perhaps passing someone over at a meeting in favour of somebody else, not asking them what their views are, asking them where they come from as a matter of conversation. There is a proposal to make these entirely unacceptable, which seems to me likely to make conversation in the office extremely difficult and to be a complete minefield for management. So I think the microaggressions are a very serious point. I think the other thing which we have to be worried about is this. If you look at the report, as you pointed out a couple of minutes ago, it starts out very much from the point of view that we're riddled with institutional racism, white privilege. We need equity, which is equality of outcome rather than equality of opportunity. It then goes on to say that we need mandatory training for management at all levels to make sure the message goes through. Now, that seems to me to mean that any manager who has the temerity to disagree with those ideas, and they certainly aren't absolutely accepted truth, there's a lot of controversy about them, any manager who disagrees with them is likely to find themselves either out of a job or most certainly hitting a very glass ceiling.
And
those
that's
are the two
really
things that worry me there.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and it's that mandating and that underlying assumption that Wales must be institutionally racist. And I just do want to ask, from your perspective, obviously you practice in Wales, do you consider there to be a considerable problem in Wales in terms of racism? And what is this document, these proposals, trying to address? Wales has an incredibly tiny ethnic minority population. Is there some kind of epidemic of racism there?
Well, I obviously don't have details for the whole of Wales because I'm limited to South Wales anyway. Very occasionally, if I've been out in Swansea late at night on Wine Street, I've heard something which might count as a racial insult, but it's been very rare indeed. Certainly within the university I teach, I haven't noticed any racism at all. It seems to me that nobody, frankly, could give a damn what the colour of somebody's skin is or what their culture is. So I'm sceptical about whether Wales is a hotbed of institutional racism. But I'm open to correction, but at the moment I'm very sceptical.